To Sunrise Daily, to speak about U.S.-Nigeria relations in context of current development in the country, we've got Mr. David Young. He is the Deputy Chief of Missions for U.S. Embassy in Nigeria. Thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, we just had a very interesting segment with politicians and how boisterous our politics is in the country. From what you've seen, observing developments as they are playing out, what's your impression so far?
Well, good morning. It's great to be with you today. I must say that Nigerian politics very much is boisterous, and so I've been here in the country for 2 years, and it's been very interesting to watch certainly the events of these last several weeks. I think it's important for me to say, on behalf of the U.S. government and the embassy, that there are several key principles that we watch very carefully. What we want to see is an election that is free, fair, transparent, credible, and peaceful. And those principles apply not only to the election itself, but for the campaigning process, the process of democracy, democratic governance throughout the year. So those principles apply before, during, and after a vote. I think that one of the things that we observe, we do not take sides in the electoral process. We are happy to work with whichever Nigerian political party would win. We don't back one candidate or another. And like our international partners, the British, the European Union, the Germans, the French, and our other partners, we are supportive of the Nigerian people. This is your democracy, and we won't make decisions, and we won't recommend to you who to vote for. Whoever you do vote for, whichever of the political parties, we'll be happy to keep working with you. We have a wonderful, wonderful partnership that we work together on so many issues. But again, our principle for us is neutrality. I might mention on the principle of neutrality that we believe that for democratic governance to go forward freely, fairly, and transparently, it's very important that police and security organs of government be neutral. So again, our principles are free, fair, transparent, credible, and peaceful with neutral police and security organs.
All right, so we'll pick up on a number of some of those things that you're working on. Let's start with the elections. We just concluded some of them, one of them in Ekiti, and there were international observers. They were there to see how some of those things were going on. But in terms of the collaboration, the training, the support that your government has given to Nigeria, are you satisfied with the outcome of that elections, or what are the key areas you think could be improved upon?
We cooperate very closely in terms of monitoring elections ourselves. We actually had about 40 members of our U.S. Embassy and consulate team who were down in Ekiti as part of election observation ourselves, and we were spread out throughout the whole state trying to monitor what was going on. We certainly will do the same with the Ocean election coming up as well, and we will be very actively involved in election monitoring, both from people here at our embassy, our mission in country, and from the United States, who will come in from outside, from both government and non-governmental organizations that specialize in democracy. Groups like the National Democratic Institute or the International Republican Institute, who track democracy and elections around the world. So election observation is something we very much are committed to. We're also very much involved in other ways of supporting your democracy, again, partnering with you. Nigeria has a very vibrant democracy. I think you used the word boisterous in terms of the politics sometimes. But I must say that we work very closely with INEC, do some support, some grants that we do with INEC to strengthen its capabilities. We've frankly been very impressed that INEC is doing overall a very good job. I think the chairman, Mr. Yakubu, and the team has a strong team at INEC, and we are pleased. We meet with them regularly, and we have good dialogue with them, and are very appreciative of the good work that they do to make sure that the vote is freely counted. Now, on some of the other issues, and certainly what we observed in Ekiti, I think we all know that vote buying was a massive, massive problem in Ekiti in that election. I think it was well documented. I don't think it fools any of your viewers to know that. We heard some estimations that maybe one party was paying 5,000 naira for a vote, and the other party was paying 4,000 naira for a vote. We had some of our election observers there from our embassy, and when they pulled away from the polling stations, you go maybe a kilometer away, and then somebody at one point saw 2 petrol stations on opposite sides of the road with long lines of people lined up at the petrol station, but they weren't getting petrol. And one of our embassy officers asked our driver, "So what are those people doing?" And they said, "Oh, they're getting their 5,000 naira for their vote." And then across the road, they were getting their 4,000 naira from the other party. So that's a challenge. I think we all have to admit that it seems that votes were freely counted, which is a good thing in terms of a free election. But you look at fairness and transparency of elections. Is that really the case when people are sadly selling their vote? Now, I must say just one last comment on that. Obviously there's a lot of poor people in Nigeria, and in such an impoverished country, in rural areas especially, it's a big temptation for poor voters who frankly don't see candidates very often, if ever, don't see people come to their communities very much with government attention. And so when they have someone come through who offers them several thousand naira, which is a lot for somebody who's poor, and say, well, if you vote for our party, you'll get some money, that's a big temptation. So in many ways, you have to address the development, poverty, livelihoods process to make sure that vote buying stops being an issue in the future.
Okay, Ms. Young, staying with the elections in Ekiti, let's look at the role of the security agencies in terms of their neutrality. What did you observe there, and what do you think can be done going forward?
I would say I wasn't in Ekiti, so I must confess I can't give you too much specific detail about that. I think as a general principle, and I'd rather keep my comments focused on the general principle, it's important that security agencies be neutral, not taking sides of one party or another. I mean, obviously in Nigeria, some states' governors are controlled by one party, some the PDP in places, and some the APC in others. Security is out in force in different areas. I would just say that one thing we observed about Ekiti, which was very impressive, is that there was little to no election violence. And I think obviously a key thing that we need the police to do is to protect voters, protect the process, protect polling booths and ballot boxes. And on that score, the Ekiti election was, it was freely counted, and it was peaceful. And I think we all know, and I think all Nigerians, as well as all your friends and partners like us from the United States, we all feel that we need elections to be peaceful. And certainly we are hoping and praying and working together to see what we can do to make sure as we go to February and March, to make sure that elections are peaceful and that some of the challenges of the rural violence especially does not spill over in certain states and become intersected with electoral violence.